Hey guys, Richard Holder here. We are live once again. It's 7 o'clock. Time to get together. We're going to talk about a lot of things tonight, but I don't have very much time. I have about a half hour, so this one will be very quick. But we've got a lot of stuff to cover. So see, and Tim's already in the house. We're going to do a couple things. One, I'm going to talk about the video I'm working on tonight, which is 4.8 liter cam, turbo cams, because every cam is a turbo cam. Also, I am giving away a cam. So a little bit later on, and probably in about 15 minutes, I'm going to be asking you guys a question about one of my things that you guys should have seen from the channel. I'll be asking a question. The first one that gets the answer will win this free mystery cam. I'm not sure what it is, so maybe you guys can tell me. This camshaft on the end of it is some sort of GM cam. I think it was a factory cam or something. Freiberger gave this to me, and he thinks it's an LS6 cam, but maybe you guys know. It has these numbers on it: 1721, 2327, and it also has this group of 6 numbers on it: 272142. So whoever answers the question correctly later on, I will be asking a question about something that I have, that I did, that I had talked about in the past. Whoever answers it first gets the camshaft. I will send you the camshaft. If you guys want to pay for the shipping, that would be awesome, but I'll just send you a free camshaft. I hope that it's an LS6. I think that it is, but it is a mystery cam. Don't ship to Canada. Nice. Okay, we're gonna talk about a couple things. First of all, I've already shot the video. I'm editing now. I'll be posting that the next video I'm doing, and you guys get to see before everybody else. It will be, or you guys get to hear about it before everybody else. It's a 4.8 liter turbo cam, and I ran a 4.8 with a turbocharged 4.8, a couple of different versions of it with 5 different camshafts to illustrate to you that every camshaft is indeed a turbo cam. And we go over a lot of that stuff in the video. So that was kind of a fun deal, and I'm excited about that. That will go up pretty soon. The other thing that's going to happen tonight that's never happened before on this channel, and it's only happening live with you guys right now, is I'm actually going to ask my first political question. And there's a reason behind that, and I'm hoping that everybody behaves. Maybe they won't. We never know what's going to happen when you start talking about politics. But I have a specific political question, and hopefully it's a very easy answer. I'm going to have A, B, or C, and you get to just pick one of those and find out what it is. And I'm hoping everybody cooperates, but you never know in the current climate in the United States. You never know what's going on. So let's get to talking. We're going to talk about the question that we're only 2 minutes in, so we'll wait for a little bit. Maybe I can answer some questions right now. And it is ZE German. Yes, it is the wrong cam. I'm not even sure what cam it is, but one thing I'm certain of is it definitely is the wrong cam. Green Power 420 needs a small block Ford cam. I have a Trick Flow Stage 1 hydraulic roller cam, which is a really good street cam for a 5 liter HO combination. 3/4 race cam and hooker headers. Yep. And fuelie heads too, if you're going to have all that. What's a good cam for a 3800 Supercharge engine? I kind of want to have a custom one done, although I'm probably not going to. I keep meaning to get on the phone to talk to the guys about. I got 2 things that I need to talk to people about on the 3800. One, ported heads, and maybe I can ask you guys. Let me know what you think. I did have somebody offer me a set of aluminum heads for the 3800 to test, although there's a possibility that something could break when we do this, because something's definitely going to break. It's going to be a rod or a piston or something, and that usually takes a valve out at least. So I wouldn't want to hurt somebody else's aluminum heads. The other reason I wouldn't want to use aluminum heads on the 3800 Big Bang motor is that they're scarce. They're like hen's teeth, so nobody else will have them. I kind of wanted to show something that everybody else would have. When I've done the other Big Bang motors on the LS stuff, I use heads that everybody else could get. I use Stage 2 TEA 706 heads or Trick Flow heads or something that anybody could duplicate. And the problem is with a set of aluminum heads, Angry 408, send me an email, and we can talk about that Stage 1 cam on the Trick Flow stuff. It's Killer B16 at AOL. I'll put it up at the end of the video so you guys can take a look at it. And it is a Ford cam, so everybody knows it's not a Trick Flow cam, or not an LS cam. Michael Newton's stock bottom on LQ9, billet Gen 1 7875, 799 on pump gas. Think it'll be too much compression for 15 pounds on 93 octane. No, it won't be too much. It's everybody thinks about it in terms of boost, but you should be thinking about it in terms of power. The problem is when you go up in boost, you're gonna have to go down in timing, and you lose power from the timing but I gain a little bit more from the boost. So have a good intercooler and just see what kind of timing you'll be able to get away with. Yeah, Mark Montana, the 3800 aftermarket heads are very expensive. That's the other reason I didn't want to use them. We can get fairly good or reasonable flow rates out of a set of ported iron heads, and it should. I don't think that's going to be the limiting factor in terms of power. We've got enough turbo to do lots and lots of stuff. Byron says my PTE or my PT70 or 6870 is rated at 1100 horsepower on a K24, or will you be able to get 1100 horsepower? I don't know anything about that particular turbo. I'd have to look at it and see. 1100 wheel horsepower seems like it's a lot for that size turbo. But if it's rated at 1100 flywheel, 1100 wheel horsepower is going to be at least another 100 horsepower. So you might be pushing that if it will actually do that. Kevin wants to know what's the best stock heads for LS boost. Well, the thing is, again, like I talk about all the time, if you have 1,000 horsepower turbo, you can make 1,000 horsepower with any stock head. If it's a 5.3, I just like leaving the 5.3 heads that are on there because you're not going to do anything better than that. I mean, if you've got a 78, 75 turbo with a stock 706 head and cams and springs and boost, you'll do everything that you need to do. You don't need to upgrade the head. If you're trying to make lots and lots of power, then yeah, a ported head, a ported 5.3 head or a ported 243 head or an aftermarket trick flow head is even better because they have thicker decks, and that's really the reason to upgrade. They'll have more clamping force for really, really high boost and power levels. Grim wants me to stick with the production 3800 head. I agree. We can port that, and I think that we can get. I've seen some flow numbers from them. I'm thinking we can get 230 CFM or so. I think out of those heads, and I would like more. I would like 300 if we could get it, but I just don't think it's possible with that. When is the Big Bang 3800 coming? I'm working on it. We're in the middle of a pandemic here, and we're also in the middle of Christmas, so we got to get that stuff done before I can go back down there. There was no factory aluminum head for the V6. That's true. Tim wants me to use aluminum heads on the V6 Buick for an NA one and use 3 Webers on it. I would like to do a custom intake manifold just because I like doing custom intake manifolds. I wish I knew how to TIG weld, and I don't know how to TIG weld aluminum. I've done like wire feed MIG welding because it's simple and it's easy, and I can even do it. But I've never done any TIG welding, and maybe it's something that I should learn how to do. JD Rods, hey Richard, I'm putting a turbo on my 5-liter with 289 heads. I'm going to run 6 pounds of boost. How much fuel pressure should I run? If it's a carb setup, you need to increase fuel pressure at a 1-to-1 rate. Your fuel pressure going to the carburetor needs to be 7 pounds. So you need to add 1 pound of fuel pressure for every pound of boost. So you would be at about 13 pounds or so going into feeding the system. Otherwise, you just won't have any fuel flow. Jared Armstrong, I have a custom grind cam for a 4th gen Hemi. What's your opinion on it? 226, 236 at 50. Well, that's only giving me a little bit of the specs, but that should be fine. Sheldon says that cam that I have is a stock 2004 LS1 cam. I would be kind of disappointed in that. Nobody wants to win that. Vern Frederick, have you ever tried cams from Anderson Ford like the N41? Yeah, I've run a lot of their cams, and they were remarkably similar to a lot of the comp grinds. So they work well. But again, there's not magic. If we use an Extreme Energy 274 cam and use one of the Anderson cams that has very similar specs, they'll make very similar power. Evil LS wants to know what is the best compression for a turbo build for an LS3. You take a look at the LS3 video that I have up. The compression really is more a function of the octane that you have, and it's an octane boost timing kind of consideration. And if you're trying to run pump gas on it, you might want to lower the compression a little bit. Bill Jr. says transmission gears is the new boost. You want an 8 or 10 speed in the 70 Nova with a boosted 5.3. It does keep it in the power band awful nice. Angry 408, Summit has a whole new line of cams for the 5-liter forward. I know they talked to me about that. They talked to me about testing those. They have duplicates or upgraded versions of the Alphabet cams that they were coming out, and they wanted me to test all of those, which would be interesting. Rob wants to know when the 3800 Big Bang is. We don't know yet. John Benskin, swapping a rod from one LS to another, does he need to be rebalanced? I don't think you do if you swap a Gen 3 rod to a Gen 3 rod motor. I think that those are going to be the same, and it's pretty easy to check the balance on one rod and another rod. If you're going from a Gen 4 rod to a Gen 3 rod and swapping those out, those might be different. And I'm going to do a video on that and show you what the difference is. And we're going to kind of weigh everything and find out what it is and what the difference is. Booth Freak Garage, did you need to hire anyone? What I need is a social media director, somebody who understands Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and everything much better than I do. Mark Montana says there's a Holden intake for the 3800. We have composite intakes. I mean, there seems like I looked in the wrecking yard. It seems like there's about 10 different intakes for that 3800. There's composite ones and aluminum ones, and there's even stuff on the F bodies. So even if you're looking at just the front wheel drive stuff, there seem to be a few of them, and there's also the rear wheel drive stuff. So I think there's a good enough intake to do what we need to do. Tim says that even the aluminum 3800 heads have a hard time getting to 300 CFM. I saw some airflow numbers on the stock 3800 aluminum heads, and they weren't that impressive when they were as cast. They weren't even what a really good ported set of iron heads were, which kind of surprised me. So I don't know if you can get there even with that head architecture. Chase M, I watched the older video of the Big Bang Nitrous. Yeah, that was a little bit of a disaster. Although you have to say, we had some pretty exciting like explosion from that. It just blew the whole top of the thing off, which was kind of interesting. Herbert wants to know what are realistic flow numbers for porting stock 302 heads. I know that the stock head flows about 164 or 5, I think, if I remember right, CFM. It's not a lot. I don't know. Can guys get more than 200 out of those? If anybody's ported a set, I've never ported a set of stock iron like E7TE heads, and I don't know. I remember seeing any that were done really well. I've seen guys that have removed the thermactor bump and done a little bit of massaging, but I don't remember them getting more than 20 or so CFM out of it. I'm sure that there's got to be more. J-Land, I'm putting an XE282 HR. We've run that Extreme Energy 282 cam a lot in a 347, and I think that we ran it in a 392 when we were testing it. I've run it a few times because, if you have the 274, a 282 is the next step up, so you got to run that. And it does make more power. It's just softer down low. Blue Collar Fox 91 just got in the chat. Any chance we can do a small block forward and compare cams side by side, only changing the cams? I've done 10 or so camshafts at one time on a small block forward. So I've done lots and lots of small block forward cam testing. What cam should I use for a stock LT1 second gen? I've only done a few cam tests on those. I think the guy you should ask is probably Jim over at TPIS. Okay, let's. If I was hoping that this was an LS6 cam. If anybody wants to, what I'll do is I'll pick another cam. I'll pick another random some kind of performance cam to do a giveaway. So let's do a giveaway on the camshaft. So it'll be the first person that can answer the following question. I have a 1988 5-liter Mustang. It's a 5-liter notchback. It's a 5-liter LX. But there are 3 things that are unique about that car. I bought it brand new. I bought it in November of '87. So there are 3 things that are unique about that car that I bought, that something that came from the factory that I didn't do. What are the 3 things that are unique about that car? Name any one of them. Whoever is the first one to name that will win a free camshaft. And it's my car. I bought it. So somebody tell me what are one of the unique things about that particular car? And I've mentioned it and almost every time I talk about that car, I talk about what is see, Blue Collar Fox 91 is the first guy I see. It is the first year in California with the mass air. Yep, no mass air. Somebody tell me something else. Oh, Mark Montana knows. No radio. Okay. That's the other thing. That's 2. So far we have the 2, but it looks like Blue Collar Fox 91 is, and you probably need a Ford cam, I would imagine. Also, no radio. I ordered my car with a radio delete. So what is the other thing? There's one more thing about that car that was special order. Yeah, it's the first year of the mass air. Yep, we got that. Yeah, it did have the speedo and cruise control. What cam do you want, Blue Collar? Send me an email. Yeah, California was the only one in 1988 that had the mass air, and then they introduced it in '89 to all the other cars. And I didn't even know that when I bought my car. I just wanted the new Mustang because I was going showroom stock road racing in SCCA and bought the car, and that's when it was delivered. It was delivered as an '88 in November of '87, and I didn't know until I started learning about Mustangs that it was the first year. Jason Herrick, yes, rear gears. What gear did I order that car with? There were only 2 available in that car. So what rear gear did it come with? The email is killerb16@AOL. It's KILLER, B as in boy, E as in Edward, the number 1, the number 6 at AOL. Yes, it's an AOL account. Yeah, 410s. That would be nice. Yes, Sticky Tire Garage. It came with 308s. You could either get a 273 or a 308. You could get a 327 in the automatics, but not with the 5-speed. And my car was obviously a 5-speed. I ordered it with 308s because, that was the upgrade rear end ratio for that particular year. And I was going road racing, so I wanted as much acceleration as I could. And none of these other gear ratios that everybody is mentioning were ever available from the factory. 327 was the only other one. That was automatic only. Yep, NHRA stock, 308 optional, and 273 standard. That 273, that's for the big top end, like the 308 wouldn't go a million miles an hour already with a 0.68 overdrive that we had in that 5-speed trans. It was such a big drop going from 4th gear to 5th gear. But I have to say, when I ran the Silver State in that combination, I would run the thing. We put headers on it and made a few things to it. I ran it NA to begin with before I put the Vortec on it. And we would run, and it would run the same speed basically in 4th gear and 5th gear. It just run a lot less RPM. And I wouldn't be, the problem is when I run it in 4th gear, it would run 140, when it was stock with an open exhaust, it would run 147 miles an hour. And it would do that in 4th gear, except that you'd be up near 6,000 RPM. The problem is the thing would start to overheat. I think that we were probably over speeding the water pump. And then I'd shift into 5th gear, and it was like 41 or 4,200 RPM. And it would just run indefinitely at that speed. It would just keep going like that until we ran out of gas. It ran cool. It didn't have any problem. And then later on, after we put the blower on the car, we eventually got the car up to 193 miles an hour. With the R trim on it, it went pretty fast back then. Can you do a video about a 1994 GT 5-liter, or do you have one? No, I have a 1988 the best year ever made, first year of the California mass air car, as we talked about. Okay, so here, okay, guys, here's my political question. This is my first political question because I've not had any sort of political discussions on this channel for obvious reasons. I want it to be like car related stuff, but I want to find out. I'm going to do a little experiment and find out if we can actually answer a question. And what I would like is I would like the following answer, either A or B or C. So I want to ask a question about our president, about Donald Trump. And here is my question. So the president set up a fund so that people could donate money to help pay for what he was describing as they wanted to help him pay for all of the legal fees for the legal action, and he was taking these things to court because obviously he thought that he did not get a fair election, and that there were, and so he was going to be suing. He was going to be helping pay for all these court cases to find all these missing ballots and stuff. So he set up this fund so people could donate the money to help pay for that. Well, as we found out, obviously all of that money wasn't going just to pay for that. He could take up to 75% of it himself. So here's my question is, and I don't care what political leaning you are, it doesn't make any difference to me if you're far right or far left or in the middle. None of that matters. All I want to do is find out if people can actually answer this question. So there are three answers. And here's my question. Do you think that when he set this up, that he was 100% truthful and thought that he didn't get a fair shake in the election and was setting this up so that he could take this to court and try to prove his point? Do you think that he set up this fund with that in mind? So A is that he set that up with that in mind, and he thought that he was going to be paying and using all the money to pay for that. B is he set it up because he knew that he was going to have this loophole, and he was going to be able to take a bunch of that money with him when he left office. So that he set this up basically as a money-making thing, and that the court case thing was a secondary thing, and that this was basically all about money. Or C is that it's a little bit of both. That he knew going in that he was hoping that he thinks that he got the election stolen from him, that he was going to try this and go after this and do everything that he could to try to win the election, and that also the extra money was going to help pay for him after he is not president anymore. So you have A or B or C. So I want to find out what you guys think. I'll be interested to see, first of all, mostly I'm interested to find out if he actually, if people can answer this. That's kind of what I'm most curious about. I'm less interested in what the answer is than actually if everybody can kind of get along and talk about this and say, hey, look, it's this, or hey, look, it's this, or maybe it's a little bit of a whole bunch of things. So that's what I'm kind of really interested in. I like that people are getting together, and when I did this channel, one of the things I wanted to talk about is the fact that if we're doing something, if I'm talking about Chevys and we happen to be talking about Chevys aren't the best thing. I mean, there's lots of Chevys that I love, and there's some of them that I don't, but I like them. And I also like Fords, and I also like Dodges, and unusually so, I think, for this industry, I also like Chevys or like Nissans and Hondas and Nash Metropolitans. And the guy right down the street from me rolled out in a 1957 Nash Metropolitan, when Lisa and I were leaving, I drove over there immediately and started asking him about it because I wanted to find out. And it was actually kind of a barn find for him. So there's lots of cool stuff that I like. And this is exactly the same thing. So I wanted to find out where you guys are and what you guys think, and whether or not we can actually have an honest, interesting, like normal human kind of conversation about all this. And I think it's important for us to do that. Like I said, doesn't matter to me which one you pick. The only thing that matters to me is that you pick one, and then we can, I can look at all those and find out. So who's my camshaft guy? Let me know. Make sure to send me an email about what camshaft that you want so that I can get something out to you. And I want to thank you guys, obviously, for playing and stuff. I'll try to have some giveaways like that, because I think that it's I think that it's awesome. You guys have helped me out a lot, and the channel is growing, which I think is awesome, because obviously I could have started a channel and I could have just basically been talking to myself, which I do a lot anyways, especially at West Tech when I'm working and it's late at night. I do talk to myself because there's nobody there. The problem is I already know what I'm going to say, and I already know if I'm lying or not. So it's kind of awesome. So let me know. Give me some ideas on some stuff that you guys might like to try. We could do some more contests like that. We could do some more giveaways and stuff. I like the guessing stuff. I have some more when I go down and actually start doing some testing. When I can get back on the dyno, what I'm going to do is I like doing live feeds when I'm down on the dyno. So we can actually be sitting there kind of together. I can be in the control room. We can be making runs. I can then go, okay, look, we just put this intake manifold on, and everybody gets to guess now how much power it made. And then I can make a run, and you guys can see it happen kind of in real time. And then when you see it happen in real time, obviously it's more exciting and more believable. And I can say, hey, look, here's what happened. And as we're making the run and we're doing a giveaway, it blows up in spectacular fashion. That kind of stuff happens too. So let me see what kind of comments we got going on here. Let me see what kind of hornet's nest I stirred up here. We should be voting on not having $15 a gallon for gas. Yeah, I really like cheap gas. I'm pro cheap gas. So see, I like this. Everybody's voting. Everybody's doing the ABC thing as I'm scrolling back. And yes, James, I'm going back far enough where we're still talking about the Mustang, but 193 miles an hour was a little bit scary in the Mustang. I'll tell you what was worse. When I was running in the Silver State and we're running 180 miles an hour or something like that, one of the years I put some motorsport springs in them, and I cut the springs too much. So we actually were going over, like, the road is not great out there. So we're going over like frost heaves and stuff. And I was going up and down, and I came down all the way on the bump stops. And the problem when you do that is you have an infinite spring rate, and that's not good. And especially when you have an infinite spring rate a little bit quicker on this side than you do on this side. So what happens is the thing wants to dart, and we moved probably 10 feet over. And luckily I had about 10 feet and 3 inches left or 10 feet and 3 inches total of the road available to me. So we didn't go all the way off the road, but that was very, very exciting. The German Epstein is talking about Epstein. Aaron wants to know opinion on the AFR Enforcer heads. I think that they're probably really good. I haven't specifically tested those, but honestly, I've never tested anything from AFR that didn't perform as well or better than they tend to indicate. They really do their homework. They've always prided themselves on making a really good head before that they produce it. So they do a lot of work in making sure that it's good. Jason B, he needs a severance package. I think he's got a pretty good one. I think the number is up to 600 million or something right now. Jim Shock picked 4 A's. Sean wants to know if I'll get cars on the track to test instead of just using the dyno. Well, primarily what I've done in the last 25 years is stuff on the dyno. So, but that's why I got the Nova, so we could put cars in it. I don't know if I'll do much track testing with it. I will go out and do burnouts with it, which will be cool. Okay, a blue collar, I'll leave that at the end of the video. And if you look at some of the other videos, I have it listed, and it might be also in the channel description. I'll put it in there. Graham says we need more Mopars with turbos. Okay, I'm scrolling back through the ABC stuff. So we're getting into more car stuff. Jason wants to know, do you have an equation to figure RPM range based on duration at 50 in relation to cubic inches? Seems like bigger engines can use bigger cams because they tend to tame the cam timing down. So if you have the same duration at 50 and you put it in a 351 as opposed to a 302, you'll make power at a lower engine speed. Alan, you missed the cam giveaway. Andrew Hill, super chats. I know I'm looking into that. I'm looking into a bunch of stuff. I'm just not, like I said, that's why I need somebody that's more familiar with this stuff than I am. Tim wants to know if I have a noise curfew at West Tech. They do during the day, but after everybody leaves, it's not a problem. A few people have approached me, and maybe that's what Super Chats is. A few people have approached me about setting up a chat thing where people pay to come in and talk to me, which it surprises me that people would do that anyway. But and maybe they would, but then they get a percentage of it or something. I think that's how it works. Brandon wants rear-mounted turbos. Yes, I do want to do that now because I can do that in a way that we don't have to have super long exhaust to put it back in the back. I can route it up and make a U-bend turn and have it come back up, so the turbos can kind of still be up where they are. They could just have to go through a lot of exhaust to get there. So that will be easier than I thought to set up. I was a little worried about putting the turbos way back there and having to set up pumps to get the drain oil back up to the motor, or if we set them up high enough, maybe I could have really long drain lines. We were just trying to figure all that out, but I figure if I run the exhaust back, 10 feet or whatever, and then put a U-bend on it and then run it back 10 feet, that will simulate the length of a rear-mounted exhaust, and that will allow me to put the turbo up by the engine, and then we can just kind of use a conventional drain, and I think all that stuff's taken care of. Pete wants to know if I'm ready to start doing electric motors. I do like electric motors. Anything that provides zero maximum torque at 0 RPM, that's pretty impressive. Guess 1666 finally got to one of these live chats. See, welcome. And I'm just about to leave. I have about 2 more minutes. 4x4 Productions. I don't know if that's hieroglyphics or E&M. I'm absolutely happy to send you PayPal gift money or EMT for consulting. That's not necessary. If you have questions to ask, they're probably easy questions. I'm sure I can answer. Yes, Redman, I agree. Turbos out of the hood are cool. Just like in Mad Max, everybody wants their turbos sticking out of the hood. And then if you have turbos and then you have Weber carburetors, side draft carburetors sitting in front of them, that's even cooler, although I don't think that are big enough to make much power, but it still looks kind of cool. What's your dream car? I have lots of cool cars that I would want. That Nash Metropolitan down the street. If I had that Nash Metropolitan with really good disc brakes and a decent suspension and a little 4-cam or 4-valve twin cam Toyota motor in it, that would be really cool. I would never want to go fast in it. I just want it to look cool, and I want it to be a convertible too, and I want it to be the 2-tone. Should I swap my 4.6 for my Cobra for a Gen 3 5-liter? Yeah, I think you should. And if you're really cool, you would get an aluminum Gen 3 5-liter. Oh no, you're talking about a Coyote. Yeah, Coyote's also good. That's good. It's just more expensive. Then if you're going to do that with a Coyote, just do do the truck version. Do the F-250 or the F-150 version. My Gen 2 383 cam, 245, 250, 585, 577, 107-degree lobe separation angle from Charles Cooper. That cam should work good on a 383. As long as you have enough cylinder head to support it, that should work good. I see Joe. I built a Nash Metropolitan with a 22R for my mom. That's awesome. That would be another good motor. The motors that are in them are not bad. I mean, they set a lot of endurance records and speed and mileage records back in the day, but they're not great. And I kind of want a twin cam motor in there because it would look cool. OPG thinks that there's a Nash Metro hiding unused in the driveway. Go find out. Let me know. Opinions on the X303 cam. Man, we've used a lot of those X303 cams. I think modern stuff is much better, but you know, guys made a lot of power with those back in the day. Can you do a blow-through boost on a dual 4-barrel carbs? If they're both blow-through carburetors, I don't see why you can't, but I think that it would be a little more problematic than just tuning one of them. Back in the day could be yesterday. ZE German do an F20C swap out of an S2000. I built one with a K24 crank making 300. I like those F motors. Those are good. They make lots of power. I like the K motors too. I actually want to build a small K motor, not a bigger one. You know, D-stroke. I haven't tested the sloppy stage 3 cam. I've never run that cam. But like every cam, you know, we know it's a turbo cam, right? That's a good question. Slime Cuda, is there any performance difference between the various 4150 intake elbows on turbo setup? I did elbow testing on the 462 valve stuff way back in the day, and we did see a difference on those elbows. I haven't run the 4150 stuff, but there are some that look different enough, some that have dividers and don't have dividers. So it might be interesting to test those to find out if there is. It's hard to get real high horsepower stuff to be as consistent as it needs to be, maybe to find, you know, 5 horsepower or something. But if there's a lot, it would be, you know, we could see it. I've never heard of a screaming liberal stage 3 cam. California motorcycle, 98 Mercury Mountaineer, 5-liter all-wheel drive. Any mods? Yeah, there's that 5-liter I think is like the it's like the Explorer, right? So if it is, then there's lots of stuff you can do. It has the GT40 stuff on it already. Those are fairly decent heads, but you could put a camshaft in it and springs and, you know, long tube headers and all the stuff. Although if you're in California, then that's going to be a lot harder because they kind of are the smog police there. Have you run the 247? I think you probably mean 274, Michael Blackman. The 274 cam with the YN blower. Yes, I have. That video I think is actually up on the channel, and it works well with everything. So it works good with that blower as well. I think we did a back-to-back test on the blower with the stock cam. I know I did. We did that cam versus a stock cam, and it picks up power and drops boost. It does all the things that you want it to do. Blake White, can I use the Gen X 225 heads on a stock bottom end with a big cam? What I had piston valve clearance problems. We ran those 225 heads on a 6-liter LY6 with the comp 54 469-11 cam, and it worked fine on that application. It makes good power. Those 225 heads with a fast intake and that camshaft on a 6-liter made, I think it made 575 or something. It did pretty well. Jason Lee, when are we going to see some second-gen turbo LT1? I don't know that I'm going to do a turbo on the LT1. I'm definitely going to do a supercharger on the L99, but I don't know if the LT1 will get boost. It might. Maybe after we do the internal swap and do the 302 and 305. Jose, yes, I've run the XE258 cam, and it works good. It's a good mild cam. Randall wants to know if I have any experience with low-mounted turbos. Yeah, on the Coyote, we ran the Hellion kit, which worked good. It had a low-mounted turbo with a pump, and I think it pumped the oil back up into the valve cover, if I remember right. And it worked fine, obviously, as long as the pump, I don't know about the longevity of the pumps, but when are you going to try TSP stuff? I think I've run 1 or 2 TSP cams. I just haven't heard from them. I'd like to do stuff with Texas Speed. They have good stuff. I've seen their cams. I've seen their specs. They work good. And I've run I think we ran a 227 cam of theirs on an LS back in the day, and it did exactly what you'd expect that 227 cam to do. So they make good power. I'm open to working with everybody. I don't, like I said, I don't care whose name is on the camshaft as long as or the intake manifold or heads or whatever. So I work with everybody. So the Texas Speed guys, if you're out there and you hear this, welcome. James wants to know how he gets that chop chop sound from his Tesla. You just need to get the soundtrack and plug it into your tape player. 4x4 Productions, you should do engine building videos. I don't build a lot of engines. I do some, but most of the stuff it's easier to do from the wrecking yard, and we just upgrade the wrecking yard stuff. Trick Flow, Track Max. We've run the Track Max stuff. Cameron Wood, 6-liter with a GT45. How much will it make before it's maxed out? The 6-liter will make less power with a GT45 than a 5.3 or a 4.8 because you're going to run into the flow rate of the hot side of the GT45. But I'm sure you can get over 700 with it. Eli Barr, can we get some VVT cam testing? With the Holly, we just can't do that. And the problem with a lot of VVT cam testing is we've got a big sweep that we can play with on the stock VVT cam. But once we start putting real camshafts in there, you have less available movement that you can move the cam. You can't sweep it nearly as much once you have more duration in there, and it becomes less and less beneficial. You're right, Z German. You need LKQ sponsorship. Those guys really should. If I had sponsorship from anybody, those guys should be the people. No Mercedes-Benz stuff, Appendix Felix. I haven't done any. The only Mercedes-Benz I've ever played with, and I built the motor for it, was I gave my mom a 230 SL back in the day, long time ago, and the motor only had water in it, and we lived where it was freezing, and it froze and cracked the block. So we had to put together another one. So I put together another one and put it in there for her so that she could drive it around. James wants to compare HP tuners to standalone. People have asked me about different EFI stuff. And really, from a power standpoint, if it will give you the air fuel and the timing, they make the same power. The other things are the important things when you're talking about standalones, how many data logging channels they have and how fast they are, and more of those things and what things that they will provide. Like I said, if you run the same air fuel and the same timing, the motor makes the same power. Nick Steiger, how much piston valve clearance is there on a 351 Windsor with an XE274 cam and a 202 valve? I don't know, because I don't know what piston you have, and I don't know if there's a valve relief there. I know that the 202 valve tends to not fall into the factory valve relief, so the piston to valve clearance goes away a lot with the bigger valve head. Okay, last minute, and I got to get going. So make sure to email me and we'll get some kind of camshaft out to you. I'm disappointed that was an LS1 cam. I was hoping it was at least something somewhat valuable. Matt, hey, what's up, Matt? We were just looking at pictures of you from your Facebook memory deal that was 5 years ago. We've all changed a lot in the last 5 years. Andrew wants to know the largest cam for a daily driven Explorer. I don't think I would. A 264 probably would work good, or even the 258 works good. We've used that a lot, and I like that for a daily driver. The Haltecs are nice. The Motecs are nice. The Hollies are nice. We've used the Fast on a lot of stuff. And more power. That's a good question. I haven't done that, and I want to do that. As a matter of fact, I want David Freiberger actually to do that. Have you ever done a piston swap from bank to bank? I've seen Uncle Tony do that, and I don't know. I just can't see how there's going to be power there. But I, like everything else, I want to try it before I say no, it doesn't do that, or yes, it does do that. Tim wants to know if there's any plans on testing a 3.6 liter V6 from the new Camaro mini trucks. I should do more V6 stuff, but again, just like everything else, it's hard to get it mounted and it's hard to get it controlled, and especially if it's a DI motor. The DI motors are a lot more problematic now than it was. And I guess maybe we said the same thing going from carburetors to fuel injection and stuff, but it just takes a lot more work to get it all done. And yes, I'm going to be doing, some people asked about 318s, ProCharge Mopar. I'm going to be doing Magnum stuff, and I probably won't do a 318. I'll probably do a 360 just because, bigger obviously is better. Trevor wants to know, this is the last question, I got to get going. How much cam do I need to make power up at 8,000 RPM on a 6-liter 408 twin turbo stroker? You need a lot of camshaft for that. And you need a really short runner intake and lots of cylinder head. And then you need a rising boost curve if you want to make peak power at 8,000. Although I don't know why you would want to make peak power at 8,000 on a 408, because you can make a lot more power. You can make plenty of power below 8,000. But if you want to do that, God bless you. I got to get going, guys. I want to thank you guys for answering my first political question. That was awesome. And I wish that camshaft was something better than a LS1 camshaft. Although if anybody wants an LS1 camshaft, let me know let me know if you want something like that. I actually have a bunch of factory LS cams from way back when I did the first factory LS cam shootout, when we ran the LM7 and the LR4 and all the 6 liters of the HO cam and the LS7 and the LS9, and I ran all the stock ones, and we gathered together a whole bunch of them that I had. And so I have a bunch of what I think are LS1 camshafts and various different stock ones. So if anybody wants any of those, let me know. We'll make a really sweet deal on those. But I got to get going, guys. But I will be back tomorrow. We'll get to talk some more, but probably not have any more political discussions.